Right now I want to teach you how to turn a small MP3 player into basically a portable amplifier. Okay, in this video right here, this is the MP3 player that we're going to be taking apart. Now, as you can see, I already popped it apart. The thing here is already out. I've seen a lot of MP3 players like this, so you might have seen this model. Not all of them are the same. But basically I want to show you how to wire a open end wire like this right here, positive and negative, to your headphone jack, so you can use like a speaker here, or if you're going to do like I'm doing, I'm actually building an amplifier. I don't know exactly how to do it yet, but I'm going to try and hook the amplifier to this. Alright, now this one right here, all I had to do was stick my fingernail into the side and it popped apart. So some of them have screws in the back. You might need to get little screwdrivers like this. You can get these at the dollar store. They're only about $1. Anyway, I'm going to take this apart now. Be careful, your spring is going to be stuck inside of here. You got to take that off easily. Alright, this right here is our MP3 player taken apart. Now, while the soldering iron over there is getting warm, I'm going to show you how this works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the battery in. Be careful because your screen might be dangling. I think I'm going to tape that in a couple minutes so I don't break the solder joints here. I'm going to turn this on, and I want you to take a look. Notice that the screen here, notice how your screen here actually is what's being illuminated. There's like a magnet back here or some kind of reflective tape, and electrons or something goes up here through this little ribbon cable that you're seeing. And then the light, which is on the back of the screen, illuminates that, and that's what makes your MP3 player screen light up and look the way it does. Alright, what you're seeing here is where you're going to need to solder your wires. Hang on a second. Right here and right here. Most headphone jacks are the same. You'll see 2 solder joints. Sometimes there's a ground. This one is a stereo jack, so it has 3 solder joints here. Right now we don't need stereo, so I'm just going to hook my 2 speaker wires up to the headphone jack here until I get sound. I think it's already playing. Let me see the screen. Yeah, it's playing music. Alright, right here we have our speaker. We have our 2 speaker wires right here. And the MP3 player is playing music, so I'm going to hook my 2 wires to the solder joints of the headphone jack. Just be careful not to short out any of the capacitors or anything. You might corrupt your music. Alright, now I'm curious if I can make this any louder. Let me find the volume buttons. Here they are. Whoops, I turned it down. Alright. Well, now we've got the volume up all the way. Alright. This is where we want to solder our wires. Once you have the idea of where your two wires are going to go, you can either solder them or figure out a way to get them to. Alright, in my case, I'm going to solder these two wires right to the headphone jack there. It doesn't have to be stereo. Those two right there will give you mono. I'm going to solder my two wires to there. Sorry for the camera being so shaky, I wasn't paying attention. And by the way, if you have an MP3 player that's been through the washer or anything like this one has, there's a microphone right here, condenser microphone. What I did was I peeled that little sticker off, the fabric sticker, and I cleaned it and then I stuck it back on, and I noticed the microphone is like 10 times more sensitive now than what it was. There was so much dirt and crud inside there that the microphone wasn't getting sound. Turns out I don't have any solder, so I'm going to have to use the solder that's already on the headphone jack there. There's enough solder on there, I can use that. I can get the wire to stick. It won't be as good, but it should do the trick. I'm going to cut a red wire and a black wire so I can tell which is positive and negative. Now on this MP3 player right here, I don't know how the other ones are. On this one right here, on the back, we had like this little metal cylinder thing that a strap would go through, I guess. There's a hole and the string would go through the side. Well, I don't really need to use that because I don't really use a strap for it. So I figured I would, instead of putting that back in this hole, I can put the two wires that I just cut right through the hole. The only thing is, if you're going to do this to your MP3 player, you want to tie off a knot on the inside of the cover here, or whatever cover you're using that has something that you can stick the wire through. You want to tie the knot on, hang on, let me get a clear space here. You want to tie the knot inside of the cover. I'm going to stick the wire through, tie off a knot. You're better off double knotting it so you know that it's secure. And if you yank the wire, you're not gonna break your connection inside your music box or MP3 player. I mean, to me, it's just a music box, you know. It's cool though. I like stuff like this. Even digital technology you can modify. Now that you got your knot, you can yank on this and it ain't gonna go anywhere. After you got your knot, after you have your knot through the hole, you want to burn the end of the wire right here, so you can get a bare end, but don't burn it. Don't burn too much of the casing off. You only need enough to touch the headphone jack. You don't want the wire to rub on any of the other components and short it out, because MP3 players, iPods, all that stuff is digital, and digital technology, you know how digital stuff is. If you short out the wrong microchip, you could lose all your data. I've had it happen before. I've had it's weird, it makes your music sound strange sometimes if you short these out. It basically corrupts your file. It'll still play, but it won't sound like it did. Alright, you want to make sure the battery's out now when you go and solder your solder joints here. You don't want the battery in case if you in case if the solder melts and hits one of the other joints. You don't want that to happen while your battery's in. It'll cause a short, and if that happens, just scrape the solder away from whatever it melted to and then pop in your battery and you should be alright. But you don't want that to happen if the battery's in. That could blow out a capacitor. It can, and these little capacitors, they're nearly impossible to work on, so you don't want to blow one of them. I've blown one of these capacitors here, these metal ones, and I was able to take another one out of another MP3 player. But these capacitors right here, these are the first things that seem to go for me. I've replaced one of these before after the MP3 player died, and it started to work again. So that little silver capacitor there, if your MP3 player ever dies on you, that little capacitor right there, at least for me, was the problem. Alright, now I'm going to get to soldering these two joints here. I've got the wire, got the end tied off, and I'm going to melt it. The camera cut off again. It happens all the time. Anyway, I'm going to solder them two wires on there now. The solder's not melting. Alright, our first wire is soldered. Now we just got to get the second wire, which would be the negative. This right here is just me testing my connections to make sure I didn't solder the wires in wrong and make sure I don't have any shorts. If you do this, I think you should just test your connections before you put the cover back on. And when you put the cover back on, you're going to have to be very careful of your wires. I have a knot tied on one side. I'm going to tie another knot. And alright, I had to wire that up a little differently. I twisted the wires around because it wouldn't fit inside the case, but so far I've got the casing back on. I popped the switch right here back in. Now I'm going to pop the top on. Whoops. Forgot I got to screw the screws back in. Duh. Alright. We've got the MP3 player back together. The only thing is it won't clip together, so we're going to have to use duct tape on the sides. Which is okay, because it'll protect it if you drop it. Just rip your tape in like little strands like this. And then put it all along the sides where the seams are. Like right here. You can use glue too, but duct tape's my friend, so. Alright, here is the finished result. The duct tape will protect the outer side. The button still works. Well, this right here is the MP3 with the wires attached to the headphone jack. All I really did was solder 2 wires. Anybody can do it. You get a soldering gun for like, I don't know, $5, $10, $15, something like that at Radio Shack. And they last forever just about, so as a matter of fact, I gotta unplug mine. The sound is pretty loud, by the way. I mean, it's louder than a cell phone speaker, that's for sure, and it has a decent sound. I can't complain. That's a speaker I took out of the and the camera cut off again. But yeah, if you like to if you'd like to put your wires inside of your MP3 like this, I can still use the headphone jack. That's no problem. I covered it though, the headphone jack's right there. I covered the headphone jack, but I can still use that as well as hook a speaker up to it, or I can use this as like a sound source for like the amplifier I want to build here. This can be the sound source, and the transistors, after I figure out how to do it, will be the amplifier to make that speaker and the other speaker like that really loud inside of a casing or something that I can carry with me places. Peace, guys.